Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome to Horsens. Welcome
Thank you.
to this magnificent venue. We are in prison, and that's the right place to be
I guess.
for an event like this.
I remember being in prison.
So, the last Danish execution actually took place in the neighboring courtyard. So now you know that.
Oh, sorry, there was a...
The last Danish execution
was
took place
here.
in the neighboring courtyard.
Yeah, you said it was beheading, isn't it? That's incredible.
Unsuccessful the first time.
Well, but at least it stopped. In America, there's still executions happening.
Yeah. Okay. Talking about bloody events, you are known to be behind some of the bloodiest thrillers whodunits ever.
Really? Wow.
We used to have a concept in American crime fiction called hard-boiled thrillers. I think that what you write is even more than hard-boiled in many ways. How do you get the inspiration to write horrors like this?
There's a saying that we say in England and in America that inspiration is for amateurs. It's like we don't once you write professionally, you don't have the luxury to wait for an inspiration. You have to write because you have a contract. So you have to do a book every year. So you don't have to sit there and say, "Oh, today I don't have inspiration." No, you just write. But I was told that my books are very bloody or very violent, and from the first book, right? The Crucifix Kill was the first book, and one of the biggest comments I got was, the book is very violent, and I was like, I didn't read very much. I'm not a big reader. So I was like, really? I didn't think it was bloody, right? Because I tone it down, because I used to be a criminal behavior psychologist, and I used to work with the police in America. So I've been to a lot of crime scenes, and I used to read a lot of crime reports. And police reports about the crime scene, and I used to have to write a lot of reports. So on those reports, we have to be extremely detailed, right? So those reports are super bloody. You have to explain everything that happened. So when I was writing the book for the first time, I was actually trying to make it easy, because I was used to writing it like really gory. So I was just making it easy. And then when I heard that my books are very violent, I bought a few different authors and I read it, and then I understood why they say my books are violent. But I'll tell you what the difference is, and this is what I realized. The difference was because most writers have never really been to a crime scene. They either imagine a crime scene or they seen a crime scene in a film. Nowadays it's easier because you have the internet, and the internet you can Google crime scene pictures, and you can see what a real crime scene looks like. But when I started writing, 2008, the internet wasn't, you didn't get those kinds of things. So people imagine what a crime scene would look like. My crime scenes were from memory, or from what really existed. So I said there was a difference, is that my crime scenes, it wasn't that it was more bloody, it sounded a little bit more real because it was based on reality. So that's why it's got bloody. But the funny thing is, like, if I don't write a bloody book, people don't like it. They go, it's not as bloody as the other one. But the best one is like, so I kill a lot of people in my books, like a lot of people in my books, right? Nobody complains. It's fine. It's like, I killed one cat one day in a book. Oh my God, the amount of emails I received about killing a cat. I had to explain, I didn't kill the cat. It's fiction. But it's incredible. People get very, very upset if you do animals. But people, they don't care. Kill everybody. We don't care about it. Don't kill animals. So yeah, so it is violent. I don't know. I don't do it on purpose. I just do it because, to me, is what I consider more realistic.
Victim number one pulled up in a rope at the end of a fish hook, a giant one. Victim number two is crucified and disemboweled with the lobsters. The third victim, is put at the end of the rope and drawn by a car over the tarmac. That's pretty bloody to me.
Yeah, well, you have to understand. Okay, let me explain. There's no explanation for this. Okay, so unfortunately, Genesis or Bloody whatever, Yacht.
Bloody Hunt.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was written in a bad time for me. So I started writing the book in 2020, but in 2019 I lost my partner in a very horrible way. So I was in a bad mental state then, and I wasn't supposed to write. I was supposed to take some time off and go work on my mental health and travel. But then the lockdown happened, COVID happened, right? Exactly 6 months after I lost my partner. So I was hoping to travel, and then the lockdown happened. Beginning of the lockdown was great. Everybody thought this was fun. I remember in front of my house, the neighbors, they were having a disco on the first night of the lockdown. Like, nobody's going to go to school tomorrow. It was all fun. So nobody thought it would go for 2 years. Everybody think, okay, so I didn't start writing. I was like, I'm going to wait because I had holidays booked. But then 1 month went off, 2 months went off. I was like, I got to start writing. And then lockdown became what it was. And I said, lockdown affected everybody on the planet, everyone. If it did not affect you, mental health, because you're isolated more, it affected you on the kind of life you used to have, because you couldn't go out and see your friends anymore, you couldn't go to restaurants, you couldn't go to bars, you couldn't go to the park, it affected everybody in one way or another, right? It took away your freedom, it took away your sanity. So like any artist, the way we work, a lot of what's going on with us gets transposed into what we do. Painters do that, musicians do that, and writers as well. So the lockdown was getting darker, and the book was getting darker. It's just like, so the book was written through a very, very horrible time in my life. I was struggling with the loss of my partner. I was struggling with mental health. I was struggling with being at home all the time. I live alone. And I had just moved into a new house. So everything was very different. So there were nights or there were days that were very difficult. There's a known thing in psychology is that loneliness or being alone a lot fosters depression, right? If you're alone all the time, depression is going to hit. It's guaranteed. So it was a very depressive time and everything. So writing the book, so in the book I said that there's a lot of my own pain. There's a lot of my own darkness in the book. And unfortunately, this is one thing I have to say, unfortunately, there's a dedication that I did on this book that came out in every country, but not here. They took away the dedication. And the dedication, I dedicated the book to people who struggle with mental health problems, because I do, and everything. And that dedication got so much praise. It's like I got people taking pictures and putting on Instagram, people doing things, and I received Instagram messages that people that said, I was about to end my life, and your dedication stopped me, right? So I'm very sorry that you guys didn't get the dedication. It's not in the book. It's not there. I know that. They didn't put dedication in the book. But I dedicated the book to people who struggle with mental health and the fight we do every day, which is it's a fight that only us understand, because there's a darkness that's in here and nowhere else can see that darkness. So that's why the book, I remember saying that just before the book got released. I was doing a Zoom interview, and I said, the next book is going to be very dark. And then somebody said, all your books are dark. I was like, wait. And then the book came out, they go, oh, okay, it's dark. So yeah, but it's because of the time that was being written. So the next book, it's a cooking book. So it's called Cooking with Jeffrey Dahmer. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, not gonna be nice. No, but the next book is definitely not gonna be as dark as Genesis. Trust me, I cannot do another Genesis. It's like, so yeah.
But the original title is very optimistic. It's called Genesis.
Yeah.
Genesis. And your protagonist, Hunter, It's a very sympathetic fellow. He suffered a lot of traumas in his past.
Yeah.
And he works on. He works 24/7 all week. And his sidekick, Garcia, works with him all the way, sacrifices family life, pizzas, whatever. And they have a tremendous cooperation going on. They are dedicated people. How did you get that? I mean, Mr. Hunter is not an ordinary investigator or policeman, not an 8 to 5 type of man, but he's actually just as much a man suffering as your victims. Is that the case? I mean,
yeah, it is. I mean, when you see that amount of horrible things, you cannot not be affected. It's like I say that. So okay. So I don't know if everybody has read any of the books, but Hunter struggles with insomnia. I struggle with insomnia. So Hunter has insomnia because I have insomnia, and the reason my insomnia started is because I worked with the police, but I worked with criminal psychology right at the beginning of criminal psychology, or right at the beginning. I don't know if you guys seen, there was a television series called Mind Hunters. Okay, so Mind Hunters depicts the beginning of the NCAVC, which is the National Center for Analysis of Violent Crimes of the FBI, and the BAU, which is a Behavioral Analysis Unit of the FBI, where they use a psychologist to work. That's the beginning. So that series shows the beginning, how that started. And so the BAU and the NCAVC, they were stipulated in 1984, and they were finalized in 1985. I graduated in 1985 from university. I'm old, very old. Seriously, I was talking to somebody there before about being old, and I always end the conversation of, oh, you're not old and everything, because I always say, I saw the Jackson 5 playing with Michael Jackson singing. That's how old I am, right? So that's end the conversation of the oldest there. So anyway, so I started in 1985. So right at the beginning, nobody knew. It was a brand new profession. So no one knew what criminal psychologists were doing. So when the profiling started, profilers were treated like gods, right? And there were a lot of cases. There was a big mistake because they sort of omitted one of the suspects because it didn't fit the profile. So if the profiler said, I think the person we're looking for is in between the ages of 30 and 40, he's a white male, he's probably married, and then they have a suspect, and the suspect is like 27, right? And not married, they will discard him straight away because it doesn't fit the profile, right? Which was a mistake, because to tell the truth, I always said that. We study all those years in university to be a psychologist or a criminal psychologist or to be a profiler. And our job is to guess. It's what we guess, right? Because it's not a science. It's not, so you analyze the crime scene, you analyze the victimology, you analyze the level of violence, and then you take an educated guess. You go, I think that the person who is doing this, and then you go for it. But it's a guess. To tell the truth, it's a guess. It's like the weather. It's like, yeah, it's going to be sunny today. So at the beginning, they didn't know how profiling was working. So we used to be taken to crime scenes in situ, which means the victim was still there, right? Nowadays, criminal psychologists don't go to crime scenes. They work in the office, they read the report, they analyze everything, but they don't go to crime scene. But when I started, I was being taken to crime scenes. So every day, the things you see, like in Hunter's case, it's desperate. It affects you. There's no way it doesn't affect you. One of the things that people always ask me if there's something I won't write about, and I always say that I try to not write about children. So none of my books, there's a serial killer who takes kids, right? The next one. But anyway, not really. But the reason for that, I always say, I'm not a father. I've never been a father. I never had a kid. But one of the crime scenes, I've been to more than one crime scene that was, the victims were kids. And it's a different ball game. It affects you differently. You know, when you see children that have been, decapitated and stuff. It changes you. It's like I always say this is my second, because I went to university very early. As I said, I graduated early. I studied university when I was 15, and I graduated from university when I was 19. So when I was one of my first crime scenes, I was 20 years old, right? And I got taken to this crime scene where somebody had put the baby inside a microwave and turned it on. So they cooked the baby. I was 20 years old, and I walked into this thing, and I was like, there's no way that doesn't stay with you for the rest of your life. So that's how my insomnia started. That's the thing about Hunter. So yes, Hunter is the same way. When you see that kind of horrible things every day, it affects you. There's no way it doesn't affect you. There was a time that I was thinking to myself, how long can I go doing this before I become a serial killer, because like, this is absolutely crazy. So then I gave up and try to be a guitarist in California. Anyway, but yeah, so Hunter is affected the same way that I was. So there's a lot of bit Hunter and myself in the story, but yeah.
Yeah. What made you become a writer? I mean, you could have continued a brilliant career in criminal psychology.
Oh,
you
no,
probably have. You probably have already.
Okay, so criminal psychology was a long time ago, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, as I said, I mean, I did it for 7 years, and I saw so many crime scenes, and I used to say, it's like, I don't know how long I can still do this before my mind blows, right? But I always like to play guitar, but to be completely honest, right? I told myself, I was like, okay, I figured out that I can get more girls if I was a guitarist in a rock band, and then it was like. And I was a criminal psychologist. It was like, California it is. So I moved to California to be a guitarist. It's true, you get more girls with a guitar. By the way. Anyway, so that's what. But this is a long time ago. And then I did everything from there. I was a stripper. I worked in a pizza place. I worked everywhere. There's a story about you guys probably already heard it because I told the story 100 times. But I worked everything between being a criminal psychologist and being a writer. But this piece of story I always tell because I used to work in a restaurant in America with a pizza parlor. And in America, they have this thing. I don't know if they do it here, but every time the waiter comes in to get a pizza to take it to the table, we eat one of the toppings. Trust me, we do this. So if the pizza is mushroom, right, you go to get a pizza. And then you take the pizza to the table, we do this, right? If it's chips, French fries, you always get a French fry. You take it's what you do. If it's soup, you stick your fingers. No, that's joking. We don't do that. But we do it with a pizza, right? And I remember I was in this restaurant, and it was somebody has ordered pepperoni pizza, which is a little. So being me, just grab the pepperoni pizza, put it in my mouth, take the pizza to the table, put the pizza on the table. The lady looks at the pizza, and then she looks at me. And then she looks at the pizza again. She looks at me. And then I realized that there was a string of mozzarella going all the way down to her pizza, just right there. And I lost my job, obviously. But so, yeah, I did everything in between. It's like, but there was a time when, so going from criminal psychologist to be a musician and then doing all the things, there was a time before I got the deal, I was in a horrible financial situation. I was like, sleeping on the streets. I didn't have a house. It was bad. And that's when your mind goes, what did I do with my life? It's like, I was a criminal psychologist. I'm sleeping in the park. I was like, this is not good. So the writing thing was a fluke. I didn't even know I could write. I just decided I'm going to write a story. And here I am, 12 years later. Jesus Christ. Thank you. I'll be here all day.
Okay, forgive me for feeling a bit dull. Okay, what I found out after having read through all the bloody tissue in your book was that you are a very good plotter.
What?
A good plotter. You plot well.
Do I?
Yes, I think so. I think so, really. Is this? Have you thought out the plot yourself, or is it a sort of a
Absolutely
shared
not.
affair?
I find it. I get a lot of these things that people say, oh, the story was very well thought of. And I have no idea what I'm doing. None. I am that bad. I cannot play chess because I cannot think more than one move ahead. The thing about doing 3, 4, no, I can't do that. So the way I write is it's a puzzle. I do one piece, and then I put the other piece, and then I put the other piece. I never think of the entire story. So I need something to give me the beginning of a story. Or it can either be a type of kills, like for example, the Night Stalker, which is the 3rd book. The only idea I had was a crazy different kind of kill, which was what the killer was doing. The killer was inserting something inside the victim and then sewing it shut, and that was it. So I had that idea and was like, I can write a story with that. And that's it. I didn't have anything else. The idea for this came a long time ago, but that's how I write. So I'll do one little thing, and then I go, okay, because I worked with the police a lot, so I go, okay, if this happens, what naturally would come next? And then I do the other thing. So there are a lot of times in my books that something changed just right there. That I am writing, go, oh, I can't do this. One example is, good God, a book, goddamn, one of them. There's one character called Mr. J, right? And as I was writing this book, the scene was they were waking up together, and I was just introducing the victim. The victim was Mr. J's wife, right? So I was like, okay, how am I going to start the chapter? Okay, we're going to start. They were waking up before going to work. So I started writing the chapter. They're waking up and everything. And as I started writing about Mr. J, he was just supposed to be the husband waking up, going, hi, honey, let's have some coffee, let's go to work. That was it. But as I started writing, I was like, what if I make Mr. J an assassin? The idea just came there. I was like, maybe. I was like, can I make that work? And I think about anything like for 30 seconds. I was like, yeah, fine. So that's what I did. So I do a lot of these things. It's like as I'm writing, I go, oh, I can do this, and I change it. So that's why, to me, all of my books are just patched. It's like, and then people go, oh, you plot very well. I was like, I really don't. I just push it, you know. So thank you so much for saying that. But yeah, I mean,
just forget it. Just forget it.
Yeah, just screw it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to Chris Carter.
Thank you so much.